This is a hopefully brief, open letter to the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. I'll start it the way most letters generally start. Dear Republican Party of Pennsylvania, my name is the Purple People's Owl. I represent a segment of purple people as an owl. And on behalf of that segment of people, I would like to register my severe displeasure with the choices you have presented before the citizenries of Pennsylvania. I believe you've presented two of the most demented individuals that our society can ever possibly hope to even tragically produce. Who are these individuals I'm referring to? You have nominated to be the chief law enforcement officer presiding over the entire state of Pennsylvania, a man by the name of Doug Mastriano. A man who is an open and avowed racist, authoritarian fascist in the mold of someone like Mussolini. This is who you've nominated to be governor. Now you say, oh, this is a stretch. Well, is it now? Doug Mastriano, what we know, is someone who, not all that long ago, made the conscientious choice to show up at his employer, at the time, the Military War College, dressed in full Confederate regalia, smiling from cheek to cheek, like he was a little boy in a candy store. This is what you chose to nominate. And then, your nominee for Senate is absolutely no better of a human being as well. Dr. Mehmet Oz is a snake oil salesman who scammed and, duped and scammed numerous people into believing that if they took magical supplements, that they would magically lose weight. And then we recently find out that not only is he a snake oil salesman, he's a serial murderer of animals. I'm talking dogs, pigs, rabbits, etc. A serial murderer of dogs and animals. He was the lead researcher at Columbia University. And under his leadership, 75 experimentations on animals occurred. And these experimentations were so cruel that I won't even go into the details. You can read the story yourself. 300 dogs are believed to have been murdered under these 75 experiments. 300. And the level of cruelty was so benign that a whistleblower came forward and shared with the United States government that Dr. Oz was in violation of the Animal Welfare Act. And the government at that time found the claims to have been substantiated and fined the university. These are the two individuals you've nominated to represent the entire state of Pennsylvania. This is not only an embarrassment, but this is a grossly incompetent selection of individuals you presented before the state. I don't know what good conscious individual could vote for either Doug Mastriano or Dr. Oz in under 35 days. I don't know what type of individual. They found, the Republican Party of Pennsylvania found a Confederate and a serial killer of dogs to run for governor and senator in the state of Pennsylvania. This is what they found. I want to make that clear. Now I also want to make this clear. The Philadelphia Inquirer, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and every other newspaper in the state of Pennsylvania, because of the egregiousness of what the Republican Party in Pennsylvania has done, you have no other choice than to tell your viewers and readers of your publications that the only credible, legitimate choice they have this year in terms of character and integrity of human beings as a species are Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. I don't know how anyone of good faith and character can vote for Doug Mastriano and Dr. Oz. These two are two of the most low vibrational creatures your planet has. This is why we're in the bad shape that we're in, Pennsylvania. And generally, you don't find out the people are like that. Or the parties generally try to ostracize the most extreme elements on this planet. But for whatever reason, the Republican Party, since the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago, has unleashed the most demented and vile individuals that they can put in a suit and tie and presented them to us as credible choices. If I need to come to Philadelphia myself to get John Fetterman over the finish line in person, I will do it. I'll walk up on your street. Believe you me, you might not want to see it. I'll be nice. Unlike some of you outside who are not so kind. I see that. You're not really kind. Be more kind outside. But I'll do what's necessary to get John Fetterman over the finish line. Look, the Republican Party is saying that John Fetterman, this is also insulting and very tragic and ugly language that they're using to demean people who have issues health-wise in our society. There's a lot of people with medical conditions who work every day at their job and do a good job, an excellent job, a superb job. So for them to say because John Fetterman has now a slight speech impediment after experiencing a stroke, that he's not qualified or shouldn't be allowed to be senator, whilst you have a person who's a serial dog killer, a man who murdered 300 dogs. Yes, he personally was the lead researcher, meaning that anything that got done or didn't get done for the animals, he signed off on it. If the animal wasn't supposed to get an anesthesia because he wanted to watch the animal cruelly and suffer and die, that was Dr. Oz. No way, Jose. Hell no. Hell no. And hell no to the Confederate too. What the fuck is up with the Republican Party in Pennsylvania? Look, I remember when the Republican Party in Pennsylvania used to have people like Tom Ridge, who was a statesman. I might not have agreed with Tom Ridge on everything, but he was a statesman. Doug Mastriano, for all intents and purposes, is a fascist insurrectionist who has a deep hatred of the racial progress that black people have made in America. This is a fact. This is not just my opinion. This is based on actions that he's demonstrated in his entire life. And you want that to represent everyone? Now, is that going to be representative of everyone? Do you think everyone would be at ease and feeling safe in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, if somehow Doug Mastriano won and became your chief operating officer over everyone? You think everyone would feel safe? Do you think he's going to operate from an inclusive point of view? Or do you think from day one he's going to start excluding people? Telling people that your existence doesn't matter? Because that's what they want to do. They already told women, you don't get to make your own health care choices. We make those for you. Like they know the fuck about the anatomy of a woman. Look, somebody made the joke and it's true. All jokes have some truth to them. She said that she was, and the person thought that they were in, and they were really in between her thighs. That's the type of people who would be making the choices about women's reproductive care if they're elected. So please, you have no other choice in Pennsylvania. You have two really good choices. And you have two choices that are so bad they shouldn't even have been your choices. The Republican Party of Pennsylvania, what the hell happened to you? There was a time in this country when if you had a candidate that was so over the pale, your party would come to you and say, you're embarrassing us as a party. Therefore, we're going to ask you to step out of this race. Has the Republican Party of Pennsylvania asked Doug Mastriano to step aside? Has the Pennsylvania Republican Party asked dog killer Dr. Oz to step aside? goodness. What the hell is this shit? Look, generally there's a scandal about somebody sleeping with somebody. People having affairs. And Americans throw a temper tantrum about that. Here you have a man who stormed the United States Capitol, wanting to become the leader of the Pennsylvania Capitol. And don't think that this isn't asymmetrical warfare. He knows that if he's the leader over Pennsylvania, he can use to marshal the resources of Pennsylvania, people who want to go along with that. And there are many. And he can use the state resources as a state now to storm the Capitol. See, they failed. They figured out that they can't individually, as individuals, overthrow the country. So they'll try to do what they did in 1861 again. As states, try to overthrow the country. Remember, you take an oath to defend the country against foreign and domestic enemies. Doug Mastriano is an enemy to this nation. I'm going to put it blunt to you. He committed insurrection. Now they want to talk about restoring the republic. You go and look at what they used to do. I'm just saying. He shouldn't be governor. And every news organization in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to make that clear to Pennsylvanians. He's unfit, and he disqualified himself when he chose insurrection over governance. Look, if you disagree with how the country operates and runs, every citizen can opt to do what Doug Mastriano eventually chose to do, which is run for office. Let me be frank. 2 years ago, he wanted to storm the Capitol. He wanted the President of the United States at the time to declare the Insurrection Act so they could go into the Capitol with weapons that they had brought in from Virginia and start murdering American citizens. This is a fact. Are you monitoring the Oath Keeper trial? Because that's what the government is alleging. And Doug Mastriano was behind that plot. He was a general in that plot. Believe you me. So Pennsylvania, please hold the line. This is really important this time. Like I said about Iowa 3. If you've never participated before, you better participate now. Because we have a credible, direct attack that occurred, and they're planning it again. You think January 6th just happened on January 6th because of frustration of an election? No. They have been planning that for some time. Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, he was well versed and has studied extensively the Serbian Civil War. They were well versed in what they wanted to do. They have declared a war on this government simply because they didn't win the election. They didn't get the outcome they wanted. And so they no longer wanted to participate in the way that we had all agreed to participate. They chose that outcome and that route. And they should have to answer for it anytime they choose to run or seek elective office. Look, you can run for elected office and be an insurrectionist. But if we know that you're an insurrectionist, you're damn sure not going to get our vote. Congresswoman Liz Cheney is right about that. If you're an election denier or an insurrectionist, that's a no, an automatic no, as they used to say back in the day. Doug Mastriano is an automatic no. And anybody who tortures and murders that many animals and makes sure that they suffer in the ways that they suffered under his experiments, that's a hell no too. In my humble opinion, Dr. Oz is no different than Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, we have to stop this whole speciesism thing. You can't run around saying all lives matter and then you're torturing dogs. You're eating chickens. We have to stop that. And I'm going to talk about that further. Because that's social brainwashing. But for Dr. Oz to do what he did to all of those animals, you think about if that's the type of character and integrity you want as an individual leading over you. Pennsylvania won't be safe for anybody. Because if a person can do that to so many dogs, they say dogs are man's best friends. I know there's some sickos outside that abuse animals. Just like there's sickos that abuse humans. The same type of mentality that would abuse an animal in that way would also be abuseful towards a human. You cannot tell me that he experimented and did all of those sick, cruel things to animals, and he's not sick and cruel to other humans. It just doesn't jive, Pennsylvania. They're saying John Fetterman's tattoos are LA gang tattoos. Have you heard this? He's a gang member because he's got these tattoos. But they don't ever tell you what his tattoos are. My understanding is his tattoos are symbolic of the dates of when people died in his community from violence, such as gun violence, drug overdoses, DUIs. It's in remembrance of the suffering of human condition. So do you want somebody that actually acknowledges and is trying to do something? Or do you want somebody to continue torturing you? Oh, look, if Dr. Oz tortured all of those dogs, what do you think he's going to do to humans? What do you think he might have already done? Because I'm going to talk about Herschel Walker in a moment and what the Republican Party of Georgia did. Well, this is really a monumental choice we have. This is stark, like night and day. I mean, that is depravity. What they're asking us to swallow and hold our nose and close our eyes to. I will not do it. Simply won't. No. Not when we have good alternatives. The Philadelphia Inquirer and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, you have to endorse Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. And every other newspaper in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to do the same thing as well. There is no other choice. The Republican Party neglected to be responsible in 2022. This is the most irresponsible party I have ever witnessed in my life. To go from a major abolitionist party to the most authoritarian, racist, fascist party in the history of this nation. I don't know what to tell you, Pennsylvania. Besides, don't go for it. They're trying to bamboozle you. They know you're going through difficult times. They know that you're in mourning and grief and sadness. And this is the time when opportunists who really are not friends of ours, and by ours I mean the vast majority of us who want to be an inclusive and welcoming society. This is when individuals slip through the cracks, as they used to say, and try to put a wedge in between us and make us choose something that's really dark and depraved because they know that we're suffering. I simply will not do it. Philadelphia, I'm asking you to vote for Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. Pittsburgh, I'm asking you to vote for Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. Wilkes-Barre, I'm asking you to vote for Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. Scranton, I'm asking you to vote for Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. The alternative is a nightmare. The alternative is pure evil. The alternative is something that a lot of people gave their life fighting to change. It's forever forward, Pennsylvania, never backwards. Let me repeat that. It's forever forward, Pennsylvania, never backwards. Doug Mastriano and Dr. Oz want to take us back to the prehistoric Stone Age. They want to do to certain Americans what they did to those dogs. That whistleblower, thank you. Thank you, thank you. He put a dead litter of dogs in a plastic garbage bag with living baby dogs and left those dead littered dogs in that bag with the living dogs. Now, any sick degenerate that would do something like that is not someone I trust to govern over me. And you shouldn't either, Pennsylvania. So you get out there in record numbers and you vote. Even if you never voted before, check the registration deadlines. You'll get registered if you're over 18. You vote. And if we get enough people who are like John Fetterman and Josh Shapiro, we can finally do what we need to do in this country.